The Legend of Gong, Chapter 118.
The text itself is an absolute masterclass on this kind of narrative whiplash, because it swings from this gritty martial arts brotherhood to supernatural horror and then just into pure absurdity.
It really does.
But we aren't just looking at the plot today. I mean, we want to dismantle the architecture of the story to see what the specific blend of chaos actually reveals about concepts of justice, authority, and really human hubris.
Right. And to understand the stakes of this narrative, we first have to understand the world these characters inhabit. So the excerpt opens at a massive birthday banquet for the mother of a prominent figure named Yang Ming. And this isn't a casual family gathering. It is a summit of the Jianghu.
The martial arts underworld.
Yes.
For anyone trying to visualize how the Jianghu operates, the closest modern cinematic equivalent is probably like the Continental Hotel Network from those John Wick movies we mentioned.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Or even the structure of the mafia, right? It's a shadow society existing completely parallel to the normal world. It has its own strict laws, its own enforcers, and a total disregard for the official government.
Exactly. The Jianghu, which literally translates to rivers and lakes, it represents the margins of society where state law just cannot reach. The people who operate within it are bound by this uncompromising code of sworn brotherhood and martial honor. When you swear an oath in the Jianghu, that loyalty supersedes absolutely everything else.
Everything.
Right. And the text emphasizes the scale of this particular faction by rolling out a list of 36 sworn brothers arriving at this banquet. And they all come complete with these elaborate monikers. You have figures like Over River Meteor Lei Tianhua and Thousand Li Lei Yang Shun and Flying Demon Shi Chenggrui.
The branding is incredible. I mean, it's literally an Avengers roll call.
It totally is.
These aren't just names. They're mythological reputations designed to project immense physical threat before the person even draws a weapon.
Yeah.
It's an entire subculture built on cultivating intimidation and prestige. But that rigid code of loyalty is immediately put to the test. Because two members of this brotherhood, Zhao Liang and He King, they arrive at the banquet practically glowing with pride.
So proud of themselves.
Right. They stand before this gathering of deadly warriors and announce that they have finally tracked down and killed the infamous meddling monk Gong. And they frame this as a righteous execution to avenge another sworn brother, a man named Hua Yunlong.
Right. And in the classical structure of a martial arts revenge tale, this is supposed to be the moment of catharsis. Blood has paid for blood. The brother is avenged, and the room should be raising their cups in celebration. But the text subverts this expectation entirely.
Completely.
The host of the banquet, Yang Ming, isn't celebrating. He is horrified that they targeted Gong, and frankly, he expresses profound relief that Hua Yunlong is dead.
Yeah, Yang Ming basically stops the party to read Hua Yunlong's rap sheet, and it completely strips away that romantic veneer of the Jianghu Brotherhood. I mean, he details a string of horrific crimes. Hua didn't just ruffle a few feathers, he created absolute chaos in the city of Lin.
Utter chaos.
He murdered a chaste widow at Wuzhu Nunnery after she rejected his advances. He slaughtered people at the Taishan Pavilion. He broke into the Chancellor's estate to steal priceless artifacts. I mean, the text even uses classical euphemisms like plucking flowers at the Zhao estate to describe serial sexual assault.
Right, it's really dark stuff.
Yeah. And beyond attacking innocent civilians, he turned on his own faction. He severely wounded his martial brothers with throwing darts.
And Yang Ming's reaction here serves as the moral anchor for this entire segment of the story. The Jianghu functions on the premise that martial artists possess a higher code of honor than common criminals. Yang Ming is pointing out the glaring hypocrisy of that. By harboring a serial murderer and predator just because he swore an oath with them, the Brotherhood is actively participating in evil.
Well, wait, if these guys are all supposed to be heroes bound by a strict code, how did someone as unequivocally evil as Hua Yunlong get into their inner circle in the first place? Does the text suggest that this blind loyalty is inherently a flaw?
Oh, absolutely. That is the core critique here. It reminds me of the sociological dynamics we see today with institutional whistleblowing.
Oh, sure, like the blue wall of silence.
Exactly. Whether it's a police department enforcing that blue wall or a corporation burying a toxic executive's behavior to protect the brand, there's always this tension between internal tribal loyalty and objective morality. Zhao and He are operating on pure tribalism. They see a member of their in-group get hurt, and they retaliate without once questioning if their guy actually deserved it.
They suffer from a severe epistemological flaw, really. They act on assumptions rather than investigating the truth.
Precisely. They believe their martial prowess makes them arbiters of justice. but their lack of moral discernment makes them little more than well-armed thugs. Yang Ming, conversely, represents universal justice. He understands that a code of brotherhood is meaningless or even toxic if it provides a shield for a monster. Hua Yunlong forfeited the protection of the Jianghu the moment he violated its underlying ethical foundations.
Right, so Zhao and he are standing at this banquet, slowly realizing their grand, heroic gesture is actually a massive embarrassment. But they're still clinging to the fact that, morally right or wrong, they managed to assassinate Gong,
Yeah, they're holding on to that.
which is a massive feat of martial skill in their minds. So to salvage their pride, Zhao Liang dramatically unties his cloth bundle to present the severed head of the monk to the room.
And the build-up to this reveal is so meticulous, which makes the punchline hit that much harder. He opens the bundle, and the fearsome, triumphant martial artists haven't brought a severed head to the banquet. They have brought a vegetable.
It's half of an old squash.
Yeah.
Depending on the translation, sometimes it's framed as a pumpkin or a gourd, but the entire room of hardened killers erupts into laughter. But here's what I find fascinating about the mechanics of this magic. If Gong is truly this immensely powerful living Buddha, if he has the metaphysical weight to perfectly fake his own death, create an illusion of a severed head, and teleport a root vegetable into a securely tied bag, why use a squash?
Right, why not something more impressive?
Exactly. He could have summoned a lightning bolt to strike them down in the street. Why opt for an elaborate prop comedy routine? It feels like the ultimate supernatural flex.
It really is. The choice of the squash, though specifically a gourd or hulu in Chinese, is very rich with Taoist and Buddhist symbolism. In ancient Chinese iconography, immortals are frequently depicted carrying gourds. These gourds were believed to hold magical elixirs of life or even entire miniature universes within them.
Oh, wow.
But more importantly, in Buddhist philosophy, the hollow nature of the gourd represents sunyata, or emptiness. Jigong isn't just swapping a head for a vegetable. He is symbolically handing them the emptiness of their own violent pursuits.
So he's using metaphysics to deliver a literary critique of their lives.
Precisely. And we also have to look at this through the lens of face in Chinese culture. Social standing and reputation are paramount, especially in the Jianghu, where your entire livelihood depends on how intimidated people are by your name. If Jigong had struck them down with a lightning bolt, it would have validated their egos.
Right, because it means they were a big enough deal to get smote by lightning.
Exactly. It would have meant they were significant enough threats to warrant a grand cosmic battle. By tricking them with a gourd and subjecting them to the mocking laughter of their peers, he completely strips them of their dignity. He reduces these fearsome warriors to the butt of a joke.
It's psychological warfare. And the gourd even comes with a customized taunt. Like, carved into it is a 4-line poem that says, "Laughable Zhao Liang, and he king mistook a squash for my monk's self." The two force this matter inevitably will have a disaster. It's like a divine out-of-office auto-reply that also curses you.
Yeah, and it's delivered with such casual disregard.
Seriously. But the casual nature of it is what terrifies the more enlightened members of the Brotherhood, because another character, Ma Jing, steps forward to contextualize the danger. He explains that Gong is not a normal monk. Ma Jing has actually seen Gong subjugate demons at the Pilu Temple.
Right, Ma Jing knows what's up.
He understands that Gong operates on a plane of existence entirely detached from physical combat. So he warns the disgraced heroes that Gong's prophecies are absolute. If the gourd says disaster is coming, disaster is imminent.
Which prompts an immediate evacuation. Taking the prophecy seriously, the trio Jialeo, he and Ma Jing, they flee the city to lay low in a remote rural area called Xiaoyu Village. And this transition is where the narrative architecture completely changes shape. The story sheds the martial arts comedy of errors and plunges directly into supernatural horror.
The shift in atmosphere is stark. It's deeply unsettling. The trio arrives at Xiaoyu Village in the late afternoon, but the place looks like a ghost town. Every door is bolted, the windows are shuttered, and the streets are dead empty. They manage to get into Ma Jing's home, where his terrified wife explains the mechanics of the nightmare they've just walked into.
And she describes a hyper-specific localized curse. Every single night, right after the first wash so early evening, a strange wind blows in from the west. And with the wind comes a ghostly presence that causes a massive racket, shouting and slamming around the village. But the monster doesn't kick down doors or slaughter people in the streets. It stops in front of one specific house, and it just laughs.
In classical Chinese ghost lore, sound is often used to signal metaphysical corruption, but laughter is particularly sinister.
Right.
Because laughter is inherently associated with joy and humanity. Hearing an entity use laughter as a biological weapon, as a marker of impending doom, it inverts something human into something perverse and terrifying.
It really operates like an auditory Grim Reaper. And Majing's wife tells them that whoever lives behind the door where the entity laughs will mysteriously drop dead the very next day.
Oh, man.
It's been happening for 6 consecutive days. 6 people are dead, including Majing's own uncle and their next-door neighbor.
Yeah.
You can imagine the psychological torture of sitting in the dark every night, listening to the wind, and just praying the laughter moves past your window.
That is terrifying. But I have to push back on Zhao and his logic here. You just found out you accidentally beheaded a squash magically disguised as a monk, and your immediate reaction to a 10-foot cloud of death mist is to try and stab it. Have they learned absolutely nothing?
No, they haven't. And it is a profound test of their worldviews. Zhao and he are presented with a localized anomaly that has already killed several people. But because their entire identity is built around their martial arts training, they view every problem as a nail that can be hit with their specific hammer.
Right.
They reject the supernatural explanation. They assume it must be a trick, a rival martial artist or someone in a mask. They decide to stay up through the first watch with their swords drawn to ambush it.
It is a stunning display of arrogance. It highlights the absolute limitation of physical force against the supernatural. When the first watch arrives, the west wind blows in and they finally see the entity. It isn't a man in a disguise. It is a 10-foot-tall mass of dense white mist rolling down the street. And true to their flawed nature, Zhao and he charge the mist, swinging their swords.
You can't chop gas with a sword.
Right.
It's a brilliant metaphor for trying to solve a systemic or spiritual crisis with brute force. The mist doesn't even engage in combat. It simply washes over them, and the second it makes contact, both warriors instantly drop into deep comas. The mist bypasses them entirely, moves to the house across the street, lasts at the neighbor's door, and dissipates.
Wow.
By morning, the neighbor is dead, and the 2 great heroes of the Jianghu are unresponsive husks lying in the dirt.
Which perfectly executes the prophecy written on the gourd. The palm stated they would inevitably have a disaster. And the brilliance of Gong's foresight is that he didn't orchestrate this attack. He didn't send the laughing mist to punish them himself.
Exactly. The disaster was a byproduct of their own unyielding hubris. Gong simply understood their character. He knew that if he humiliated them and sent them running, their bruised egos would eventually force them to pick a fight with something they couldn't physically dominate. Their character was their destiny.
They literally walked themselves into the trap of their own arrogance, which leaves Ma Jing in an impossible situation. 2 of his sworn brothers are comatose. The village is still under siege by a laughing death cloud, and he realizes there is only one entity capable of fixing this metaphysical nightmare. So he dispatches messengers back to the capital to beg Gong to come to the village and save them.
But just as the tension reaches a breaking point in this horror narrative, the author executes another jarring pivot.
Yeah.
We leave the desolate cursed village and flash back to Lingjin Temple where Gong actually resides, and we transition from an auditory ghost story straight into a slapstick comedy routine.
Yeah, we're introduced to a brand new threat at the temple gates. The text paints this vivid, highly intimidating picture of this new character, Sun Daoquan. He's an 8-foot-tall Taoist assassin.
8 feet tall.
8 feet. He wears a 9-red crown, carries a sharkskin-sheathed sword, and just looks like the final boss of a video game. And he is at the temple because his brother Chu Daoyuan had a previous run-in with Gong.
Right. And the nature of that previous run-in is a classic trope of the genre. Because Chu Daoyuan didn't lose a physical fight to Gong. He fell ill with typhoid purely out of sheer unadulterated anger from dealing with the monk. His rage literally compromised his immune system.
That is hilarious.
So Sun Daoquan is there to avenge his brother's psychosomatic illness. He is rigid, serious, and deeply tied to the material concept of power. He stands at the gates and demands to see Jidan, which is Gong's formal monastic name.
And this is where Gong decides to deploy what is essentially a Looney Tunes routine. A monk walks out of the temple, but he looks nothing like a legendary living Buddha. He eyes in ragged, dirty robes, and he has his monk's hat tucked into the left side of his waist. Sun Daoquan aggressively asks if he's Jidan, and the monk shakes his head and says, "No, I am Hu Dine, crazy Hu. There are 4 of us brothers. If you want me to go find Dine, you have to give me money to buy wine."
Classic extortion.
Right, so Sun is annoyed, but he hands over the cash, and the monk disappears inside.
And a significant amount of time passes. Sun Daoquan is left stewing in his own anger outside the gates. Eventually, a monk emerges again. This time, the hat is tucked into the front of his waist.
So Sun demands to know where the target is. The monk points to his hat and says, I don't know who you're talking about. Look at the hat placement. I'm Hun Dayan, Crazy Hun. Pay me and I'll go look for him. And the towering, deadly assassin actually pays him again.
He falls for it.
And this happens a third time with the hat tucked in the back, the monk claiming to be Luan Dayan, Crazy Luan, and demanding more drinking money. Gong spends the entire day extorting this highly trained killer just by moving a dirty hat around his belt. It is Bugs Bunny tricking Elmer Fudd. But structurally, why include this? Doesn't Ego putting a slapstick comedy routine right after a supernatural massacre ruin the tension of the story?
To a modern reader, it might feel like a cheap comedic gag that undercuts the serious stakes of The Laughing Mist. But philosophically, this routine is the core of Gong's identity. This tonal whiplash is entirely intentional and a hallmark of the genre. Sun Daoquan is described with immense physical detail and deadly intent, the epitome of the serious martial arts world. Gong subverts this entirely.
Right.
This behavior is rooted in a Chan Buddhist concept, often translated as crazy wisdom. It is the practice of enlightened beings acting in bizarre, taboo, or absurd ways to shatter the dualistic, rigid thinking of ordinary mortals.
It's spiritual Aikido. I mean, the Sun Daoquan represents the rigid hierarchical structures of the martial world. He expects a grand duel. He expects his opponent to be intimidated by his sharkskin sword and his 8-foot stature.
Yes, and Gong denies him that reality. If Gong fought him with traditional magic or martial arts, he would be validating Sun Daoquan's worldview, the idea that power is measured by force. By engaging in petty, repetitive extortion with a hat, Gong forces Sun to interact on a mundane, deeply annoying level. He uses Sun's own rigid seriousness against him. The harder Sun tries to be an intimidating threat, the more ridiculous and impotent he becomes. True spiritual liberation in this universe doesn't look like an imposing 8-foot warrior. It looks like a ragged, annoying monk conning an assassin out of his loose change.
But the comedy can only last so long. Eventually, the sun goes down and the extortion ends. Having been completely fleeced and thoroughly frustrated, Sun Daoquan finally realizes he's being played and he leaves the temple. But his ego won't let it go.
Of course not.
So the next day, he returns to the temple gates, furiously cursing Gong's name to the heavens. And this is where the brilliance of the serialized narrative structure really locks into place. The two completely disparate storylines, the comatose heroes in the village and the angry Taoists at the temple, they violently crash into one another.
The timing is a masterpiece of narrative convergence, because at this exact moment, Lei Ming and Chen Liang arrive. These are the messengers sent by Yang Ming to get Gong to save the comatose heroes from the Laughing Mist.
The people who need saving send people to get the savior.
Exactly. But Lei Ming hears this giant Taoist insulting his master. And because Lei Ming is a classic Jianghu martial artist who lets his ego drive his actions, he doesn't assess the threat. He just walks right up to this massive, heavily armed assassin and basically says, hey, I'm his disciple. Do you have a problem?
It is a disastrous miscalculation. Sun Daoquan, who has been boiling with impotent rage for 24 hours, suddenly realizes he has leverage. He instantly deploys a technique the text calls spirit-binding magic.
Yes.
It freezes both messengers perfectly in place. They're completely paralyzed. Sun draws his sharkskin sword, raises it high above his head to execute the disciples right there in the street, and that is exactly where the chapter abruptly ends, on a massive cliffhanger.
The ultimate tea house cliffhanger.